Hello all, and welcome to this CADMATIC Electrical webinar. Today we are concentrating electrical especially in process industry. So let's see today few examples how you can use electrical features in process industry segment. But maybe first of all, a couple of small things about electrical what you might already know, but it's always good to go through. So like you hopefully know, electrical is own CAD tool and CAD application, and with interface you can see our ribbon, and from ribbon you can see that those basic CAD level functionalities like polyline, copy, stretch, and symbol functionalities and layer technical things are available here. So actually electrical is very similar like very common AutoCAD application. Polyline is exactly same kind of polyline. Symbols are AutoCAD blocks with attributes and so on and so on. So everything in here can be used to modify your old DWG files in CADMATIC Electrical. Then what we call electrical is electrical toolset on top of this basic CAD level. So from ribbon you can find out electrical common tools for all the documents, creating documents, frames, printing, database applications, and then we have a tool sets for each different kind of document type what you can use with electrical. And technically we are drawing CAD files very often like this distribution diagram what you can now see on our screen. And in here you have symbols or blocks, you have polylines, you have boundaries. But what is most important thing with electrical is that thinking how you create these diagrams. So even we are placing a transformer symbol in diagram, we are actually talking about real devices in this project. So you will create devices in a project with descriptions, with IDs, and these devices just have some kind of occurrence or symbol selected to describe what device this one is. And when you have selected the symbol, how this device need to be shown, for example, in single line diagram, and place it in document, you create actual occurrences for these devices and right away see which project documents those devices are placed. So this is a huge advance of electrical, and this is maybe the most important thing to understand electrical, that even diagrams are very typical CAD files, but you can think that you will place devices, you will be creating cables between devices and so on. Even the cable itself is a polyline with data, but it's easy to understand if you think that devices are what you placed in the documents, cables are connections between these devices what you draw into that diagram. Yes. And like you see on left hand side, you can see this kind of electrical project review where you can already see a lot of information from your project. Yellow cylinder is a project level, and in this tree view you can see all the wirings. Are they cables or internal wires inside of some cabinet, and how they are connected? What is the wire color and these kind of things. Cable types, same idea, but only listing cables and organized by cable type. So you can see that all the earthing cables, this kind of type is used and what cables are using, and also a total amount estimated here inside of electrical. How much you have drawn this kind of earthing cable into this project. Electrical project tree is user interface, so you can easily add extra tabs and check, for example, product models and what kind of light equipments you have created, how many pieces of those you have used in this project, and these kind of things. So electrical project tree is already showing you a lot of information from your project. Right hand side, I have a similar project tree duplicated, but in here I have only a documents listed. So easy way to see what kind of different document types and documents you can create in electrical project. All these documents are now connected to the project database, even they are separate CAD files, but because they are connected to the project database, we can connect things between files in this project. And one good example is, for example, in here single line diagram, that we have one breaker, we have a cable which is going to another document. If you just double click that wire reference, we will jump to that file where it's going and see where the cable is actually ending in this project. So even it goes to another file, we can work with these and use those wiring reference features in electrical to find out the head or tail location of this cable in this project. So it's not needed to use only one file. You can have several files in project, and links between the files can also be created because of the project database. That is maybe one of the most important things in electrical premium level, what we can achieve with the project database. Okay, so let's jump then into the examples what we have, and I have now an idea to show you some things in electrical, and workflow what I'm going to show you is based on this small PNID diagram. So we have 3 pumps here in PNID diagram, couple of instruments also placed into this tank, and my use case now is that, hey, someone decided that we need a 4 extra pump somewhere in this diagram. So pump is already copied here in PNID side, but all the pipelines are still missing. Work is still going on in that level, but pump is already copied here in PNID side. So next we can check that what happens if we import devices from this PNID to the electrical. And that is our starting point of creating electrification for these pumps and these instruments today. So 3 of those pumps are already inserted in electrical diagram, this single line diagram, and let me do like this. So these pumps are already there, but the one what was copied in PNID is still missing, and that is something what we need to now import. Of course, I can create that pump manually if I just know the ID, but because we have a link into the PNID, you can also integrate and import that device from there. Integration functions can be found from the own ribbon, and I can actually show you. If I close that one, we can jump into the electrical ribbon where you can see the integration functionality in here. So clicking that, we can activate the integration ribbon, and you can see all the functionalities what are available with our other CADMATIC applications. First thing what you need to do is connect this electrical project to that COS project what you want to use. And when that is done, we can start to import devices from PNID or export devices to the 3D model and so on and so on. There are also some settings what you can define to map what data from PNID you want to import into the electrical. So you don't need to import everything what is available in PNID side. You can decide what you want to import and which electrical data field that information is imported. So let's see what happens if I now click import devices from the PNID. We can see a lot of devices what are placed in that one PNID file, but also the other PNID files what are there in COS project. If we check with this attribute organized that, hey, show me all the devices what are defined that they need requires electricity. If that kind of value is set it up in PNID side, that is easiest way to find out what devices probably need electrification. So these are probably things what I want to import into the electrical. There is my one pump what is now copied into the in PNID side. That is one what I want to import. But then there are a few red lines, and those three pumps are actually already in electrical diagram. But looks that there are some changes happening for those devices in PNID side, and at least the description is changed. You can see it in here that the description is someone is changed description in PNID side. So I want to import that one and update the three other pumps. But I want also take these level sensors for some tanks, and also this temperature sensor and this level sensor is those what was in that PNID what I was showing you earlier. That valve is defined that needs electrification, but looks based on description that it's hand valve. I can leave that away and then later on import that if find out that it's not the hand valve, it really needs electrification. But at least I can check that, hey, which one is correct, this one or description. So we can always check what is going on and then later on import those devices. So I have selected what I want to import, click OK. So actually right away those descriptions for those devices what was already imported earlier is now updated. So I don't need to type descriptions again here in electrical side if those are changed in PNID side for some reason. And actually that was the integrations itself. It just brings devices what you want into the electrical. Now what we need to do next in electrical side is of course do the diagram, create cables, things like that, and that is an electrical part what we need to do. And if I now check maybe this kind of project tree like device by location, I can already probably see some of those devices here in project tree. All those IDs what are bold can be found in this active document. Now there is this one pump which is not bold. It's meaning that, hey, this pump is missing actually in this active document. But like I said in earlier state in this demo, this project tree is only showing a small part of the project. So if I click the chemical plant in project tree and open DB tool, we can see all the information from the database. And let's see from here the same situation. So we have a lot of devices here in project database. You can organize them by using ID. You can filter out these by systems and so on, or device type. Just look some kind of current transformers or whatever you have in project. You can use those filterings. One very useful filtering can be also this kind of creator or modifier field in electrical. So if I just click today, I should see all the devices what we have created today. And in here you can see those level sensors, temperature switch, and this one device pump what was imported a few minutes ago. If I scroll a little bit in left side, we can also see that hey, these devices have occurrences just in cost side in this point. Sometimes with electrical, like you see, it's very easy to work with this kind of grid view in DB side. Even the most in the cases you are probably working in diagram side and creating your electrification diagrams and these kind of documents. But working together with this database tool and electrification, I can use, for example, user selection list to help me to find out correct object. So I will now place all these devices what we created today in the user selection list. So if I now jump back into the CAD side, go to our Find tab and activate the user selection list, I have all those same devices here in user selection list. Okay, looks that there already was in my previous settings. I have already exported these three objects into the user selection list, so they was already there. So I only added those new devices from the DP side to the user selection list. And that you can use this user selection list as your workload or work list. And these are things what I want to work with today. I should create cables for this new pump. I should create loop diagram for these instruments somehow in electrical, and that is our goal today. Yes. So let's start that work, and let's see that, hey, you can always click that device and insert occurrence of this device into drawing. So you are placing that pump into your diagram. That works if you have very less devices or you need to do a unique diagram. But of course, in this kind of case, you can also use a very basic CAD level things like copy. We have a new pump. It will need all of these parts, this pump. So I want to copy, of course, that one. When you copy, you also only need to be careful with the IDs. So if you give a new ID for the frequent converter, that will be created, or you can find and replace. So because I copied pump 9114, I want to copy it to be pump 9110. 9 values is replaced, so all the cables, all the devices are replaced, and I can click OK. And actually, right away when that pump changed the ID to this P9110, the technical info and description is changed to that what we imported from the PNID side. But what other we did when we copied that feeder or all the equipment in this circuit? We created one new frequent converter inside of the cabinet. We created one new safety switch because that was our electrification engineer decision to use safety switch between the cabinet and the pump. But we also created a couple of new cables in electrical project based on the copy, and these are now new objects in electrical device where you can see head and tail information what is automatically created from the diagram side. You can change cable type in here if you want. You can see already a diameter and weight information based on the cable type, and so on and so on. There are also important information like length. There is calculated length and length information. I will be explaining those a little bit later. Both are now 0 in here in this stage. Why? Because we have only created this cable in single line diagram, so we in this stage know where this cable is coming and where it's going, but we don't know where that frequent converter is, where that safety switch is, and what is distance between those devices, so we cannot find or calculate a cable length. So that's why I probably want to add also this one into the user selection list, this new safety switch, because that is object what I want to insert somewhere in my arrangement document. So if I now open my first floor arrangement document, we can actually see that those other safety switches are already placed in here. So that new pump is coming somewhere. I actually don't know yet because it wasn't in 3D yet. I don't know where it's coming, but probably somewhere in here. But actually that's not important because I want to now insert that safety switch what we created into the drawing. I can rotate it, and let's assume that it's probably somewhere in here because those others are also in this row. So maybe that is coming into this place where we see a small space available. And when we inserted that pump, I can also activate the ID if we want to see that one. It's there. I just need to activate it, visualized on screen. So if I now jump back into the single line diagram and double click the cable, you can actually right away see the cable length, what is calculated inside of electrical. So that is the first estimated length for this cable based on the location in electrical. That cabinet is now found in electrical arrangement document. That safety switch is now there. So right away electrical can calculate, or let's say estimate, distance between those two objects. And that estimation is based on where you locate your devices in arrangement drawing. Yes. That is actually quite nice feature that you can very early stage on your project already estimate cable length and find out if you might have some problems with too long cables or something like that. You can reorganize your planning and make changes what are necessary in your project. Okay, so quite easily by importing devices, copying existing, and just assigning these new devices to the correct position IDs or IDs in this project, you have connected this pump into the existing pump and created couple of new cables and couple of new devices in electrical project. But workflow is very similar like with traditional CAD software that you can just copy things. Important is understand that you was copied cables and devices instead of just symbols. Okay. So before I jump into the loop diagrams, maybe I can show you some extra features here in arrangement side, because we already placed that safety switch in arrangement document. At same way, very similar way, you can use product models like equipments uh, here in a project, and you can place those into the drawing. So, for example, light equipments are a very good example about the objects what are created during the electrification work. But probably those are objects what is good to show somewhere in 3D model also. So if I can check for first that using some kind of running ID formatting for the IDs for the light equipment. Let's say those can be maybe 1, 2, 3 LE and then starting from 0, 1. I want to create this kind of ID formatting for the light equipment what I will be placing into the document. So it should be now on. So if I go and select a product model, which is exactly library object, so it's this kind of luminaire with this kind of 2D symbol, with this kind of 3D symbol, with size information, and also with some default values like system and installation height. All these can be modified by user in case by case, whatever you need. But that is a product what I want to insert into the drawing one by one, or for example in area, if you know that hey, we have some kind of compartment where 3 times 2 metric is enough for the devices, and when you show the area, those luminaires are placed into that compartment, and IDs are given based on you rule what you defined into the running ID functionality. And because these product models can also include a lot of definitions, like this is a symbol what you want to use in layout, this is symbol what you want to use in 3D, these are symbols what you want to use in single line and multi-line documents. This same device can be easily modified with using a product model. And because we have a default elevation, we have a 3D object, we can actually, even here in electrical, already see that, hey, 2D symbol is this kind of a schematic symbol. It might be a bigger than the actual device, but 3D object is actually in this kind of size and this kind of shape in this location. And the basic level information is that wherever you have 2D symbol base point, that is a base point for also the 3D object. And once again, we are talking about a very basic level CAD technical things. Yes. So because the 3D object is there and elevation is there, we can also integrate these objects into the 3D model. So if I want to now export something from electrical to our 3D application, I can select that those light equipment and this safety switch is something what I want to push into the 3D side. 7 devices is now exported, so I can once again jump into the 3D side. So here you can see the same area about this chemical plant where those light equipments and the pump and safety switch should be placed. So let's see what we can do if we just go to the layout and equipment and start to insert. So actually right now you can see that hey, there are 7 objects what are coming from electrical side and component model is already selected in electrical side because we had that 3D object inside of product model. Light equipments and 1 safety switch. So if I now select all and just press OK, the safety switch is now there in 3D, but also the light equipments are located in here wherever we place those in electrical. So they are right away in correct place based on the electrical. Is that place correct? Then that can be decided here in 3D side. So if there is a need to move that object somewhere for some reason, is it that safety switch is moving or something like that, we can also move object here in 3D side, just update those changes and go back to the electrical. What you need to do is basically synchronize things between 3D model and electrical. And let's see, there should be a one notification. This one is now changed, so it's moving from this location to that one. Do you want to do that update? Yes, I want. And now once again that light equipment is exactly in same place where it is in 3D side. So even electrical and 3D are own applications, those can be integrated together and you can easily update your documents if device location is or placement is changed in 3D side for some collision reasons or pipelines or whatever is the reason. And same way, when this safety switch is moved in the correct location wherever that pump is coming, this can be updated later on in electrical. Okay, so arrangement document is easily that kind of document what you need to do. That is easy to define light equipment placing or where the pumps and safety switches are located based on 2D view about the plant. That is a one thing. I can close that one and save the document. Single line we created based on the old information and copied that one. Of course, you can always draw boundaries in single line. You can insert push bar. You can draw cables into the single line one by one. Sometimes that works. Sometimes copy works, and sometimes you have maybe things like instrumentation loop diagrams, which you might have a lot in this project, and but they are very similar kind of documents. That's why I want to show you one thing called so-called generate drawings in electrical. So that is functionality what is based modules or templates. Let's call them templates. And now we imported a few of those instruments in electrical. And we have 4 pumps with frequent converters in this project. So what I need now, few loop diagrams and 4 circuit diagrams for pumps electrification. So connection drawings, how those cables need to be connected into the safety switch, into the frequent converter, and so on. How those frequent converters are controlled in this project. Of course, I can do that manually. I can copy old existing documents. So if you have only few diagrams, you can easily draw them. If you have few or tens of diagrams, you can copy them easily. If you start to have hundreds of documents, it might be good to generate those documents. So generate drawings is only way of creating electrical diagram based on templates. And what I mean with template, template is a very small electrical project. So for example, this VFD template, if I open that one, that is a circuit diagram with normal electrical object like cables and cable types and IO points and everything. But IDs are a little bit odd. IDs look to be some kind of link into the electrical database. Control cabinet is a link into the electrical database and these kind of things. So these links makes a normal electrical diagram as a template. So let's see how we can use these different templates. So that one is one. Then we had a couple of other templates, analog input and digital input or binary input. That is a very simple loop diagram what we have in here. So very basic level, very less information, but I want to keep this simple that you can see what really is happening there when we use these. Yes. That generate functionality is based actually nowadays on Excel worksheet. And that is our way of working, that sometimes it's very easy to work with Excel and sometimes in database, but nowadays this generation tool is working with Excel to make it even more common or easily used with for example, with existing old DWG files in your company. So you can easily use this Excel worksheet even without electrical project. Now, because we have electrical project, I can use that project a little bit advanced for me. So let's go to the database side and see what we did, what we have done today. So now there, if I refresh my view, I can see also those light equipments already here in database. But if I remove filters and go to my user selection list, I can only see those devices what I have selected into my user selection list. So what we imported today plus those couple of pumps what was imported somewhere earlier into this project. And these are now objects what I want to work with. And if I scroll a little bit in left side, you can now see that hey, those objects have COS occurrences, they have single line occurrences, and they can have also the arrangement document occurrences. Yes. So what I want to do, maybe organize those with IDs. That might be the good way of doing doing that. And then I want to add some information for these, like, for example, module name. That one is now where I define that, hey, these level sensors are just switches. This is a temperature transmitter, so it needs to use analog input. And these pumps are actually should be based on this VDF module what we checked earlier today in here. Maybe I do like this. So I can also use this kind of quick edit in Excel with electrical. So I selected 4 rows from database and edit those in Excel. So I can very quickly add some values in here for these objects like this, and then use Excel running formatting for the giving the IDs for the object or connection for the object. With this functionality, only thing what I need to remember is that, hey, when you have edited, please leave it open, go back into the electrical, and you can see import functionality because that Excel is open in background. I can now import those things into the electrical, and you have edited values for those devices. And now the Excel is closed because that was already imported in electrical. So different kind of way of editing devices here in database with using Excel edit or adding things later on in for devices in Excel. So these pumps are example about that, hey, I updated few values here in database side. What I can now do, go back into the, for example, in CAD side. I have created one report, which is this kind of auxiliary instrument report in this project. If I update that one, it will now recreate that import and using same settings what you have used when you created that report at first time. So it will check information from the database, update those into the report, and if I open that one, we can see that, hey, pumps have those information in this Excel list what we just added in database side. This is an Excel what we now will use next to generate those diagrams. So that was the list about devices what we imported from the cost side. We have already module defined because that is information what I was giving in database side. So, but couple of things I have left here in Excel just for the example that how you can define, for example, document number. Those should be create a one document. This should be the next document. What is electrical cabinet ID what you want to use? It's that one. What is control cabinet? What you want to use? What is marshalling cabinet? What you want to use? What is terminals? What you want to create? And what are the pin numbers? What you want to create? So if I copy these and now scroll everything in here. we can see that we have now given some of the information. Soon you should see how these affect to those templates. So these are actually now those links inside of the templates that, hey, take value from this column and place it into the template and then create an actual document based on that. Take terminal number, take pin number and place it into the template and then save it as a new document. So if I save this one and close it, we should be able to check and test this functionality, what will happen. Okay, so that Excel was selected. Yeah, you can select or change that Excel if needed, but now it's showing that, hey, these are things inside of that Excel. What loops you want to generate or what diagrams you want to generate. I want to select all and press generate, so it will create now 10 different modules. But what should happen? Only create 2 different CAD files. We just give 2 new file numbers or drawing numbers for those. So we should have one file with 6 pages and one file with 4 pages in this project after this generation is done. So like you see, this is only a way of automate your drawing generation. If you have a need that documents are based on very similar templates and only the data or values inside of those diagrams are changed, this is a very useful functionality to create those CAD files with using Excel file, and that Excel file, it's user decision how well you want to put information in database. So can you just export that Excel file and use it right away, or like we did today, some values added in database, some values was added inside of the Excel file. Yes, everything should be ready. Close this one. And if I open my multi-line diagram folder, there should be 2 new files. Let's see first this frequent converter. So there is a safety switch. If I click page up, we will jump into the page 2 in same document, which is a second pump and second safety switch. Double clicking that one will open, and now you see that, hey, this safety switch have now also occurrence in this kind of multi-line diagram. It had only occurrence in single line and arrangement and also in cost side, but now it also have occurrence in here in multi-line diagram. So this is why we was talking about in early stage that, hey, you are really creating devices in electrical, and those devices can just have occurrences in different documents. Cables, same way, but now these cables have also connections created. Before that, there was only a cable going between the devices, but now also the wires are connected to some pins and pin numbers, and everything can be found here in database, and you can create easily also a cable connection report from database. Yep, and the loop diagram is very similar based on those based on those templates, 5 first are based on same template. Last one was analog input, and it's a little bit different. There is a little bit different cable type and so on. All the information about marshalling cabinet and control cabinet is updated here in boundaries what you have defined inside of the template. Those IO points what we had in template was just IO points. So only thing what we added for those was the IO tag, giving some kind of IO tag for those to indicate that they are individual IO points. So let's take one example about that, how to modify this document further in electrical database. And if I now go into the, for example, in IO channels, okay, I need to click the project level so I can see all the IOs in this project in one view. And on right hand side, I can see the IO list, what I have now filtered with using connection information empty. So meaning that this list is now listing only IO points which are not connected to any IO card. And like you see, based on those tags, these are things what we created for those pumps and for the instrument loops. So what I want to now do is take that control cabinet. There is some IO cards already there available, but I can show you that if I want, I can also create a totally new IO rack. Let's call it maybe 5.1. I can add new cards into that one. Select product models in this project, or if I want to use a certain, let's say, certain manufacturer, I can take a one analog input card into this project. I can take one digital input card. Let's use maybe that 8-channel and one 8-channel digital output card into this project. So first card can be that analog input. Okay. Now we have already a one card inside of the rack. Let's make like this. So IO card into that rack is a digital input. Next one is also a digital input. And the fourth one still is digital output. Yes. So in that cabinet we have now two racks, and this rack 5.1 have cards available like this. Okay, but what we want to do next? First one was analog input. So based on that tag, this was our analog IO what we created. I want to connect that one into the first channel. These digital inputs are those level sensors what we created. Those go into that card. Yes. Pumps have a digital input also. That will go to the that card. And those digital outputs will be connected to those channels in fourth card of this IO rack. So what does connection means? If you now go back into the electrical, and if your document is opened on your screen, it's not updated automatically, but as user you can select when it's correct time for you to update these active documents on your screen. So when you select that one, all the information from database will be updated those documents, and right away you can see all the pin numbers here in channel, IO point and IO symbol, all the description about those um, pin descriptions, and also the channel number what this manufacturer is using. And same way for the each page in this one document. And if I now open also that frequent converter diagrams, you probably saw that, hey, when opening the document, the information was added into the symbols. So which rack, which card, what is a channel, what is a channel pin number and description for this pin, and so on and so on. So everything is now updated into your circuit diagram also. Just drag and dropping IO points to the channels in database tool. Yes. Okay, so we have done quite a lot of things already today, but I think that one thing is still left what we want to do, and that is those cables. Let's take like this, and maybe create once again filter out, show me all the cables what we have created today. And maybe it's enough for me if I select those and put them into the user selection list, because these are now those instrument cables created based on the loop diagrams. Or maybe I can take also that pump, what was totally new pump. I will add also those cables into the user selection list. Because what we can now do in integration, we can also export cables from electrical. And I can export all the cables what I have in user selection list. And when that is done, only 9 of them was cables what could be in this point exported into the outfitting side or plant modeler side. And if we now jump into the 3D side, let's see what happens in here. So if I go to the cabling, cable manager, load updates, is there any cables what are coming from the electrical? Yes, there is. I can make it a little bit smaller, this dialog. No need to be so big. Yes. And if I click one of the cable, it will show you that, hey, what is the head and tail equipment for this cable? Looks that for this cable, cabinet is in there in 3D model, but instrument itself is still missing in 3D side. So I cannot route this cable yet. But actually this one is a cable which already have instrument there in 3D side. So that can be routed. Also, this power cable can be routed because it goes from the cabinet to the safety switch, but this cable cannot be yet routed because the only thing what we have in 3D is safety switch. Motor is still missing. So I can select those two cables and create them. So they go to the not routed section. But these are cables what I can really route. And let's use the auto route functionality. If everything went okay, those cables should be moved in the routed section. And that instrument cable is coming from that cabinet and going to the instrument itself. You can also see it in here in 3D side that hey, that is our temperature transmitter what we have, and that is the route what that cable is now using and going to this cabinet. What about this power cable? It's going from this cabinet using this cable route and going to that safety switch in there. But the pump still is missing, so we cannot continue from there. But like you see, cable routes are selected based on, for example, the interference class. So power cables can use only cable trays which are meant for the power cables. Control cables can use only cable trays which are meant for the control cables. Of course, if you have so-called multi-purpose cable trays, power and control cables can be placed in the same cable tray, but still you have possibilities to define what is distance between power and control cables if they are running in the same cable tray. So all these things can be defined here in cable routing side, but that's the totally a different thing and a different demo where that can be go through. Okay, so if I now click save here in cable routing side, close this one and go back to the electrical. We can update also those cables back to the electrical. So now this cable should have, was it this one? No, it was actually this one. Have already an actual length what was coming from the cable routing side. It doesn't have calculated length because that temperature sensor is missing from electrical arrangement document. If we jump into the single line document and that pump, this cable have estimated length in electrical side, but also real length coming from the cable routing tool to the electrical. And in this point, we are, for example, ready to create a cable list and update that cable report or cable list. Let's see what will. So we have now there cables and what we created, and we have a real length for this cable what we have now routed in 3D side. But same for the cable connection list. If I update that cable connection list, we can check what we have done in that side. So once again, if you once define your Excel report, it's extremely easy to update that one because you don't need to focus how this cable report was done. It will always be updated based on that information what was saved during the first creation of cable connection list. And because once again, Excel reports are based on the Excel, you can very easily define look about these cable list. You can define those based on your existing cable reports. Just get automatically information from database to these reports. And if you have done cables in single line, you can already have a cable in there, but if you have created connection documents, you can also have a connection information here in cable connection list available for all the project cables or for those cables what you have selected or filtered into this cable list. Okay, that is probably pretty much what I had on my mind for today demonstration. Hopefully you like it. So, thank you everyone and see you next time.